Now that we added colliders and rigid bodies to our birds, we will create our level. So this scene is named gameplay. So we will create a gameplay scene and save it in the scenes folder. And this will be our gameplay scene basically. And now we will drag our, background day, and also we need to drag our ground. So here simply find our ground, which is this, and drag these two in our scene. Now, one thing you may have noticed is that when I dragged our background day, it covered our bird. So here is our bird, but we don't see it. Now, for that, we are going to use sorting layers, and we can select one of our, game items. So we have our bird or our background or our ground. It needs to have this sprite renderer component. And here we have this sorting layer. So we see that we have this sorting layer. And now shortly I will explain for what we are going to use it and, which tags we are going to use it. But beside the sorting layer, we also have these tags here, and we have, this layer here. Now I will show you which tags we are going to add in the tag, in the sorting layer, and also in this layer here, so that you can copy them. And after that I will explain for what we are going to use each of these. So I've made a screenshot. So this here is our sorting layer. So add this, what you see here, add it here in the sorting layer. Simply click here, add sorting layer, and here you can add those layers. The same thing goes for our tags and our layer here. So simply click here, add a tag, click on this plus button, and then you will name that tag. And the same thing goes here for this layer. So simply add layer, click on the plus button, and add that layer. So again, add this in the sorting layer. This right here will be added in the layer. So here in the layer, so this one in the middle, and the last one will be our tag. So now you can simply pause the video and copy this so that we can continue. Now that you copied all of those tags and layers and sorting layers, I will explain what each of those means. First, I will start with the tag, and you see that I have tagged our Flappy Bird as the player. Now for what we are going to use this? Well, basically when we collide with an object, so when our bird collides with another game object, we are going to use this tag in the code and check which object is that. So for example, when we touch a pipe with our bird, in the code we are going to write if the tag is equal to pipe, which we have the tag here, then our bird will basically die. Now regarding the layers here, and you see that I added our Flappy Bird to the player layer. What that means? Well, it makes no sense for each game object in the scene to collide with each game object. For example, our bird has no need to collide with the background here. And for that we can use these layers, and we can assign each a game object on a specific layer. And then we can go here under edit, and then project settings, and then physics 2D, and here we can decide which layer can collide with which layer. Now you can pause the course here or the video, and then you can copy my settings here, because I've set which layer can collide with which layer. So again, I will just bring this up so you can pause here. And now I will bring it down so you can copy the rest of the code. So again, this basically means that, not each game object will collide with each game object. So in our case, for example, our bird will not collide with the background, and so on and so forth. Now, regarding the sorting layers here, this will determine the order by which our sprites are rendered in our scene. So the first tag that's here, that will be the layer that's going to be rendered first. So for example, if I set my background, so if I click on it and set it to be on the background layer, now we see that our background is, in front of all default layers, and our bird is currently on the default layer. If I set the bird to be on the bird layer, we will see that the bird now is rendered on top of our background. And also for our ground, it will be rendered on top of the background. If I set its sorting layer to be ground, we will see that our ground now is rendered on top of our background. And for that we are going to use these sorting layers. Now that we have our tags and our layers behind us, let us create our level. And how can we do that? Well, simply by copying and pasting and, well, using the snippet tool to snap our backgrounds. So now I'll just copy and paste this background. And now we have, well, two backgrounds. And now what I will do is I will position them as close as possible to each other, and I will zoom in. And holding the V key on my keyboard, we will see this, well, this cube here appearing, well, on this corner. Now we can simply drag it like this and we will snap it, creating, well, one background basically. So this is how can we create our backgrounds. And we will create around 8 of these backgrounds in this order. So I will not continue with our backgrounds because you can do this on your own, but I will show you one thing regarding our grounds. So I'll just copy and paste one of our grounds and now we can drag it. And we can do the same thing. So now we can zoom in and holding the V key we can snap them. But we see that we have this gap between them, and I will just drag them both, well, here outside of, well, this background where we can see. So we see that we have this gap between them, and now I will explain what is going on and how can we fix this basically. Now this problem is, well, happening because this, well, asset here is not drawn properly. And you might think that I can simply, well, drag this, so I can drag it like this and I can position it. Well, you are right, I can do this, but in the code, when we want to reposition it again, it will be positioned like this. So it will have these gaps because we are going to calculate, the width of our background, or our ground, because we are going to add a box collider to it. And we are going to calculate the width of that box collider and position them in the code, and this will position them, well, the same way as we see here with this gap. So how can we fix this? Well, of course, the first and the main solution is to draw this properly by making sure that we don't have any gaps at the sides, well, white pixels or stuff that will make gaps basically. The other thing that we can do is we can go here in our sprite sheet, so sprite editor, and we can zoom in our ground, and we see how we slice this ground. So we see that this white line, or this, well, blue line that's going to slice our ground is going outside a little bit. We can simply drag it back like this and we can, well, reposition it. So something like this, and I will just go here on this side and also reposition it back, and again here simply repositioning it like this. So make sure that all of the lines are repositioned and inside of this, well, ground here, so that now when we slice it we will, well, don't have gaps when we reconnect them again. So hit apply, and now what we will do is we will simply, well, select this here, hold the V key, and now I will snap it, and now we see that we don't have any gaps between them. So basically we are done with the creation of our level. You will create it on your own, so we'll create around 8 backgrounds and 8 grounds. And my advice is to use the background and position it at 0, 0. So it will be like this, at 0, 0. And from that, you will simply copy and paste it and then use the snap tool to snap it. Regarding our grounds, you will also position it at 0, and you will position it something like this, so here. And then you will just copy and paste it and use the snap tool to, well, basically reposition them. And also select the ground and the background and go into add component, physics 2D, and add a box collider to both of them, because we need a box collider in order to detect collision, because we want to, well, simulate an infinite loop of backgrounds, which we will see in the code a little bit later.